Hey guys, today's video is going to be another hair diary on my Manemaxx extensions. It's a three-part video. It occurred to me that I never really showed you the front, side, and back layers of my natural hair and my extensions. I've got two different layers in my hair. The first layer is just my natural hair, and the second it's not really a layer, just the rest of my hair. It's my extensions. So hopefully you guys can see this. I know it's kind of poor quality lighting, but this is my natural hair, and the rest of it underneath is my extension hair. So that's on both sides. So this is kind of what it looks like straight and to the front. So I've got a lot of layers framing my face. And hopefully you can see at the back a little bit. So this is my natural hair here, and all the rest of it underneath is my extension hair. So I don't know how well the layers blend. Keep in mind that I do cut my hair myself, so it's probably not as blended as it potentially could be, say if you were to get your hair cut at, a professional salon. I guess I just want to share a little tidbit about synthetic hair versus real human hair. I don't think that any of the methods out there sell synthetic hair for single strands, but they do for clip-ins. I'm not a huge fan of synthetic hair. I've tried it out before, and it's really shiny, so it's very unnatural compared to your natural hair. The other thing about synthetic hair is you can't curl it, you can't flat iron it, because since it's not real, the fibers will get stuck and melt to all your curling appliances. And it's also very heavy, so just say if you're in most people don't normally just hang their head to the side, but if you do a wind test where wind's blowing against your hair, synthetic hair is just going to lay flat. It's going to barely move because it is so heavy. Whereas if you get 100% human hair extensions, they're going to act just the same as your natural hair. So it's going to be a lot less detectable that you are wearing extensions. So right now I am wearing the Regal Remy, and Manemaxx, she actually sells two different types of hair types. The first is a basic, and it lasts about, I think it's 3 to 4 months. The Regal Remy is supposed to last about 4 to 6 months, and it's just, as far as I know, it's better quality. I haven't tried the basic hair yet, but there's a pretty big price difference. I think it's 2 to 3 times more expensive. So if you are planning on doing Manemaxx, I might suggest you get the basic hair kit instead of the Regal Remy to start off with. That's only if you're not very comfortable with do-it-yourself methods, or if you're a little apprehensive or you don't think you're gonna catch on right away. I'm a pretty handy person. I mean, I've built tables, I do my own nails, I cut my own hair, so I decided to splurge and get the Regal Remy instead. But yeah, it is quite a big learning curve, so if you want to go ahead and get the basic starter kit to try it out, I would probably recommend doing maybe like 5 test bonds on the right side of your head, 5 test bonds on the left, leaving it for a week and then seeing how they work out, just to see if you like the method, instead of wasting kind of like an 8-hour day doing full install and realizing that you really hate it. Like I said, I'm on my 3rd install. My first one, I loved it, but at the same time I encountered a lot of problems. I didn't always love the Manemaxx method as much as I do now. So when I first did my first installs, I rushed through the process, and I was impatient. I didn't let all the bonds seep. Some of them I ended up pinching, and that was a big mistake. I think maybe after a week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, a lot of bonds started falling out, and I noticed that they were the ones that I had pinched. So if you want to prevent a lot of bond lossage, then take the time to do it properly. Otherwise you're going to end up having to do a bunch of little installs to replace all the bonds that you lost. So when I first started, I think I was losing about maybe like 10 to 12 bonds per week. So every 30 bonds I would do a quick install, which is, it's not really quick because it takes like an hour for the 10 bond to heat up completely to the point where I like it, and then another maybe hour per row, so depending on how many rows I'm doing, could take up to 3 hours. I guess the second time that I did my install, I uninstalled that one after, I think it was about 3.5 months. And the second install, I was a little bit more patient, but I still did end up pinching a couple of bonds. And I ended up losing maybe 5 bonds per week. The only thing that I also found when I was playing with my hair and my bonds all the time, as it started growing out after about 2 months, I noticed that some of my bonds or my hair was sticking together. So I would have to kind of rifle through my head and then kind of peel apart them, so the excess hair that's transferring from like one bond to the other would rip apart and I'd have separate bonds. And I think that was just because the placement of my hair. I wasn't parting it out or sectioning out as much as I should have. I kind of did random rows instead of actually doing like one complete row and then doing section by section. And I think that probably had something to do with the bond sticking together. I'm now on my third install. I'm 1.5 months into my install and I absolutely love it. I've only lost about 12 bonds in 1.5 months. So I mean, that's a huge milestone for me. That's really good. So these are the 12 bonds that I've lost so far in my 1.5 month install. And you know, it's really not that bad. Teeny tiny, so I'm doing a lot better. Like I said, it's a huge milestone for me to lose just that many. And I think 4 of them was because I was using a new comb and I ended up yanking out my extension. Speaking of yanking out extensions, I'll show you the way that I comb my hair. Sorry, I'm playing with my hair. I'll start out with this. This is the original Super Looper brush, and this is what I use on a regular basis to comb out my tangles. So I basically start at the bottom here, and oh, looks like I have tangles. So if you do have tangles and they're smaller, I grab this part here, hold onto it, and just kind of brush it out. So that way you're not yanking on your entire bond. So I'll work my way up and kind of do the same thing. I'll go from the top to the bottom. So that's what I use on a daily basis. The other one that I use is this little guy. I guess he's not really little, but it's a mohair brush, and the bristles are a little bit stiffer and more coarse. This is apparently supposed to, quote unquote, infuse shine into your hair. I just like the way it feels. So how I use that as well is I hold my hand on top, or I hold my hand underneath and just kind of brush it through. So this just smooths out my hair quite a bit. It gets rid of any big tangles and not like the super fine tiny ones. If I do encounter a knot, what I end up doing is, you can feel it right here, I'll take all of the hair away that doesn't include that one tangle. And once I find that tangle, I'll actually take my fingers and I'll find it and I'll loosen it by pulling the hairs apart, and then I'll brush it through. I find that when I find a really small tangle or a really tight one and I brush it through, it just ends up knotting the hair and making it worse and kind of big and frayed. So that's the way that I unknot my hair, and I find that it works really well for me. Also throughout the day, I use my fingers to untangle my hair just to make sure that it's perfectly smooth. And if I do encounter a tangle right here, don't pull it out. I did this actually today and I was like, oh, you know, no big deal. I just started pulling and I took out a bond. And this is the bond that I took out. And as you can see, yep, all that little curly part right there, that is my natural hair. So here's the bond, here's my natural hair that I yanked out. I'm sure I've got some lovely bald spot on the back of my head now. It's not too big, but I mean, you really don't want to go yanking out hair. So if you find a knot, don't pull it out like that. Also, when I did my uninstall after my second install, I did an uninstall after 4 months, and I'll show you the bundle of hair that ended up coming out for shedding. Think about how much hair you shed on a regular basis, on a daily basis, if you will, after you shower or when you're combing out your hair or brushing it. Now think of that times 4 months. So this, it's a lovely ball of disgusting tangled hair. So this is everything that came out after my uninstall. So I mean, whoops. It is quite big. It is a lot of hair, but don't freak out. I mean, you're not going to go bald. You're not just going to have random patches of bald spots over your head unless you pull out your hair like I did with my other bond. Think about the hair that you shed on a daily basis and think that it's not going anywhere because it's basically trapped inside your Tem bond. All the hair that you're going to shed when you have extensions, it's going to be your extension hair that's come loose from your bond. It's not going to be any of your natural hair. Gross. This is probably from that big ball of hair I'm playing with, so I'm going to put that down. With your natural hair that's being shed, it's basically attached to the bond and it's not going anywhere until that bond comes out of your hair. So that's after 4 months, and I mean, I didn't feel like I was balding anywhere. It's natural hair shed, but that's to be expected. I mean, a lot of people, when they do that after their first uninstall, they kind of freak out and they think they're losing so much hair, but in retrospect, it's really not. It's normal. So I think that concludes video 1. Stay tuned for video 2.